All right, so diving right into 4E, I would say the most rewarding part of action research is the fact that you are able to tailor it to your specific school, your specific population. That makes it a little bit more practical. So instead of looking at, different areas and things, you're really able to hone in on the student population that you're wanting to impact the most there. Um, and it's also nice to know that with action research, it doesn't always have to be this long, drawn out process or be as daunting as it can sometimes sound. And then lastly, you're able to really collect quicker thoughts because there are so many different ways that you're able to collect information, such as anecdotal notes versus a drawn out case study. I mean, that's always an option, but it isn't always the case. As far as the most challenging thing for action research, I would say I found myself really struggling not to put my biased thoughts in and word the questions in ways that show that there may or may not be effects. In my case, based off of the weekly Battle of the Books activities and student empathy there. So that was a bit challenging. I would also say finding the correct current and more relevant research was a bit challenging. I was able to find, lots of different research from time in the past, but not necessarily the most current. After digging a while, I was able to. So, because this goes along the same lines as what we tell the students, it's not always right there for you. And then to also say, checking the procedures of the county proved to be a little bit tricky. Finding exactly who you needed to talk to, and in my case, Fairfax County had it pretty well laid out, but there were so many different steps to it that I don't think I was necessarily anticipating there. Applying action research in the future, I think that it would be a great way to help gather meaningful data to help move students forward so that you're able to see your direct impacts. I think it could be tricky within the first few years of being a school librarian just by, getting to know whatever your duties are and then your additional duties that you have in the school on top of just being librarian. Um, and then lastly, just making sure that all of your bases are covered as far as the policies go. I think that could be something that could be a little bit tricky in the future. For do-overs for the course, I personally don't think I would do anything really differently with this course. I really tried to stay on top of everything just because I know how busy life can get, and I start freaking out if things are not done ahead of time. So um, the course, I don't think I'd really change much about my approach to it. However, with the proposal, there are a few things I could potentially see changing. By being in the private school, it's a very laid back atmosphere. Whereas I think if I were to do this in more of a public school setting, I would focus my goal a little bit more on the academic success of the students versus social emotional, which obviously is very important also, but isn't necessarily as data driven as what the academic progress is. And then I would also look a little bit further into different methodologies to use for collecting data on students' empathy. I like what I was able to come up with. However, I think that it could be developed a little bit more. Overall, I feel pretty optimistic about my achievement for the proposal and the course in general. And yeah, I was able to learn a lot about action research throughout this process.